Welcome back to Briggs on Books. We have been talking to authors from all over the world today, in Scotland and the United Kingdom, Canada, and of course several from the United States of America. Our next guest has a fascinating life and story and some books we're going to talk about. Our guest is Jim Story. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
Tell our viewers where you are.
I'm in New York.
New York City. By the way, here's the cover of Jim's book, The Condor's Shadow. We're going to ask him all about this book in a second. But Jim, you've had a fascinating life. You have a PhD in Russian history?
Yes, that's right.
From Columbia. Did you get to visit Russia?
I'm sorry?
Have you been able to visit Russia?
I was there one time.
Yeah.
And it was in what I call Brezhnev badass years. It was a very difficult environment, but I had a lot of interesting experiences, but that would take us too far afield
Too
today.
far afield. I guess your latest book is Condor's Shadow?
That's correct.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Condor is the story. It's an exciting story, and it's both a story about someone who's run away, and at the same time, it's a story about the love affair that he has developed and his need to get away from that. To his feeling is to protect her because of something that happened in his past, which is the reason for his running away in the first place. He's been running away since he was 16 after something that happened to him that he was fearful would be detected and he would be held responsible. And so he's changing his names and moving all over the place for 20 years. And during that time, he also meets this woman who enthralls him. But he feels he needs to run away from her as well at one point because he thinks it will be best for her that something bad is going to happen to her as a result of his presence. So he runs away again from her, and he eventually settles into a nice routine where he is a reporter at a small town Montana newspaper, and lo and behold, he gets word from that place where she is that she is in trouble, and he feels he needs to go back to protect her. So all bets are off. Everything is going to be revealed. He knows that, but he decides to do that.
Fascinating. Is
The
it all?
rest of the book is what happens as a result of that.
I guess at some point he's in Montana, but is he relocated to multiple locations?
Oh, yes, all over the Pacific Northwest. It starts in the San Joaquin Valley, actually.
Nice.
Just up in the foothills, just beyond where I actually lived when I was a kid. And it continues on. He runs away up in the Sierras, and then he goes to the Central Valley to pick cotton and do other kinds of chores to keep afloat. And then he goes to Oregon, to Washington, he's all over the Pacific Northwest.
So those of us like me, I'm in the San Joaquin Valley, the Central Valley. Am I going to recognize some places he goes?
I think you probably will.
That's fun. New York author writing about our own little area here. And you, before we came on the air, we discussed you actually lived here for a while.
Yes, I did. I lived on a ranch in the San Joaquin Valley, 50 miles southwest of Fresno, just near the foothills. So I worked on that ranch from the time I was 12 years old. I was driving trucks and so on the ranch, so I have a deep experience with it.
Did you ever get to pick cotton?
I did pick cotton. Not very well, but I did.
Yeah, well, I always said, well, that's what made us go to college and get higher advanced degrees, so we don't have to pick grapes or cotton anymore. So it was a real motivator. Tell me, Jim, I guess we can get this book, Condor's Shadow, at all the usual places?
Yes, certainly. Barnes & Noble, and it's in bookstores now as well.
Is it what formats does it come out for? A lot of people read on these tablets now.
It's available on Kindle, but this is I think you already put that up on the screen, right?
Yeah, I like the hardcover. I like to get the hardcover and read the heck out of a book.
Yeah, well, this is paperback.
Paperback, okay. This is a paperback. Jim, you had another book that was out a while back, I guess, Problems of Translation.
Problems of translations, or I'll very quickly read to you which kind of gives a synopsis of where it's going. It says, or Charlie's comic, terrifying, romantic, loopy, round-the-world journey in search of linguistic happiness. What happens is he decides that he wants to see a short story of his translated successively into 10 different languages, then back into English, sort of like the old party game of telephone.
Telephone game.
Yeah. And so he can't find a publisher to do it, so he decides to go on and do it himself. And he flies, oddly enough, to Russia in the first place, and starts getting it translated there. Then he moves to China, and it goes on through 10 different languages before finally getting back. And it takes a year for this trip to occur. And he has lots of different adventures, including being picked up by a crime organization in Mexico. So.
Oh, my goodness. Now, I haven't read that book, but I've read a lot about the book. A lot was said about the book, and I guess it won awards, and people just think it's wonderful.
I hope so. Yeah, I still like it.
My challenge is I've got to figure out which of these two to read first, because they're both very attractive, and I read an awful lot. And I usually just read nonfiction, but both of these are very intriguing and draw my attention and make me want to take a look.
I appreciate that.
Now, I have your website up on the screen. What would our viewers find at your website?
Well, there's a lot on my website, including a lot of readings. I used to do a lot of readings in New York City. I had a particular relationship with the Cornelia Street Cafe, which, alas, is with us no more. It was a really big place for readers and performers of all kinds. And I read there twice a year for a dozen years. And it would be an hour-and-a-half show, and I would pick the other person who was to read with me also. And so a lot of those readings, including some from Problems of Translation and some from the Condor Shadow that I was still working on at that time.
That would be amazing to be able to see that. I don't think we have that kind of cultural stuff where I come from, but that would be fascinating. Jim, these are two very intriguing books, and I'm committing to be reading them soon. I have quite a stack going, but I'll get them into my stack. Any last thoughts, anything you want our viewers to know before we leave?
I hope that you will buy The Condor Shadow and Problems of Translation if you have time to do all of that, and read them and enjoy them. I'm sure you will if you read them.
Yeah, I just was intrigued by your background, your education, your Columbia Russian history. I studied history as well, so very fascinating. And I will read them, and then maybe we can have you on again, and I'll ask you a million questions about the books.
I'd love it.
Thank you, Jim, for coming on, and we'll be back with more authors right after this.
Thank you, Mike.